All right, a very good morning. Welcome to this edition of Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are? Hii wiki ni ile kubwa.
Yes. Oh yes. I'm used to Stanley Nyerungeta. You're about to have a marvelous Monday morning right here, the 15th day of July. Rwandans are going to the polls. This particular day will be following closely. Oh yes. Vitu zimechacha huko US. A close assassination. As Africans, we're also saying we are watching closely.
I can see it features also on one of the front pages today.
Yes.
That fist bump by DJT. It's called DJT. Immediately after that scare.
Oh,
yes. A lot happening this week. Of course, a lot happening on our home soil as well, with the protests expected tomorrow and later on in the week, plus anticipation that the president will be announcing a new cabinet. What happened to dialogue? It was to start today. Is it still going to go ahead? That's the other question.
Oh, yes.
Yes. All that and more
yes.
right here on Morning Cafe.
Matters the headlines, police theories on city Kware deaths, that is on the front page of Daily Nation.
The theories are quite a lot,
yes.
I can tell you that for sure. All right, Raila, no dialogue. Now this back and forth is what we'll be looking at.
Manze.
What exactly will be happening?
Oh yes. Afadhali Ruto, si maneno yetu hayo, ni ndugu yake Raila Odinga.
Anaitwa Oburu
Odinga.
Sema afadhali Ruto. In business, Toyota dilutes state with 1 billion shilling thicker vehicles assembler buyout. Very long headline for a Monday morning.
Odinga Uhuru hit in 156 billion cash shillings, Ruto new budget cuts. That is what the Star is going with.
Oh yes. Have I seen the Standard?
The Standard tuliacha huko nyuma.
Turudi huko, we have to see the Standard kwanza.
Ni zoom out kwanza, then we... There's the Standard.
In the eye of the storm. Now, this is the kind of headline you want to see. There's a lot expected to happen this week. Protests, a new cabinet, and all these things. And of course, this is the biggest discussion. What will President William Ruto do going forward? He promised a lot last week, but will it happen? Let's cross the border into Uganda.
Inside cabinet retreat at Kyankwanzi.
Oh, yes.
They're saying more MPs face arrest, accounting officers asked to be firm.
Right. This is news in Uganda. Still in Uganda, Daily Monitor, that speech by the Interior Affairs Minister, Major General Kahinda Otafire. He was firing up youth to rise up, and many Kenyans have used that video, telling other Kenyans that you should be watching this. You're simply talking to Ugandan youth, not Kenyans, and telling them you need to rise up and be more alert on what is happening in our politics. But yes, Kenyans, you know. Over in Tanzania, on the Citizen, government's plan to further boost food reserves. And yes, matters food in Tanzania, but of course there's that mention of what's happening in the US. Gun attack on Trump draws global condemnation. And yes, it is one of those scary moments to watch for anyone. The assassination of any president or a leading candidate for presidency. Him especially being a former president is something that would definitely be raised.
And if it raise eyebrows. Still in Tanzania, kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi, taarifa kuu pale, ndugu washusha mzigo kwa polisi. Wasema Wadayo alichukuliwa na polisi akiwa safarini, wafichua walivyoombwa rushwa. Muliro wafunguka, asema wanamtafuta kwa tuhuma za utekaji. Masuala ya utekaji endelea katika nchi hii, matters abductions. But then they also continue the special report on how churches are wanatumia congregants vibaya. Wasema manabii wacharuka sasa wajibu mapigo. Mingi katika ukurasa wa 3.
Churches in Kenya are yet to respond. They've come under a lot of criticism. They're yet to respond properly. But in Tanzania, they are responding. On to the regional paper. And of course, this one goes with what's happening in Rwanda, the Rwanda election. Task for Rwandan leader in new term. From building an economy characterized by high taxes and debt to dealing with the Congo row, the president's job is cut out for him. Now, this one seems to suggest that he's already won the election. I don't know why. The election is this week.
Yes.
Slow down. It could go either way. But we're talking about his new term as president.
I was actually expecting the East African today to have Ruto's image and talk about the whole cabinet and whatever was happening the entire week last week.
Yes.
But then they make a mention of it.
On the bottom left corner, Ruto's dilemma in new cabinet jobs. So because the big question is, failure to have the dialogue starting today,
Yeah.
then how...
For the next 6 days.
Yes, then how does he progress to name the cabinet? Because I think one was to precede the other.
Yeah.
So yes, many questions, and we'll be trying to look at this and a lot more with our panelists this morning on State of the Nation. Former Minister for Agriculture Kipruto Rapkirwa will be in studio alongside Dr. Mombing Garu and Philip Kisia. Do stand by for that conversation.
Right. Coming up, because it's a Health Monday, has your child reached the age 6 months up and you're really trying to introduce solid foods to this young baby? We'll be telling you more about that coming up at around 9 a.m. But before that, we talk about something that Fred nayo kidogo imeanza kumsumbua. Pain in the joints, nini, najua uzee kiingia. Some of these things we also have to discuss ndio saidike vizuri.
Kunywa supu, acha kelele.
We talk about arthritis and how you really, what the ABCs that you need to know when it comes to arthritis. Stick around for that coming up at around 8 a.m. Let's take a look at the traffic right about now and see...
Umeficha your traffic wapi? Right, the traffic situation in and around Nairobi. It is a Monday, so it's probably a slow start to the week. Most of the tributaries in and around Nairobi look green so far. Nothing much to report as it is right now. Yes, of course, Thika Road building up slowly. You can see some bit of yellow around Pangani interchange, but nothing much yet. So it's still smooth flowing. Jogoo Road, yes, building up slowly at Makadara next to Mbotela, the usual, and around City Stadium roundabout, as well as Haile Selassie Avenue around Marikiti area. That's normal traffic for this time of day. The southern part of Nairobi, Imara Daima, all the way to the city center, nothing to report there. It's green all the way. So is Langata Road and Ngong Road. So traffic into the city as at 7 minutes past 6 is smooth so far. Of course, this will be changing in a short while. Also, Wayaki Way into town, all the way from Loresho, Kangemi, ABC Place, past Westlands into the CBD. It's looking good. So, yes, at least as for now, traffic is looking smooth. So if you're hoping to get to town, this is the time to leave the house.
Right. Let's take a look at the weather updates and see in different parts of the region how the intermittent cold is going on. We start in Kilifi, where they say it's 24 degrees as Celsius as at 6 a.m. It is going to be warmer than that, 28 degrees as high as that, getting into the day, and lows of 23 degrees Celsius. That is in Kilifi. From Kilifi to Bomet, let's see how things are going to be looking like. 13 degrees Celsius, as at now, it promises to also get hotter. No light showers around this area. They say precipitation is 0%. Let's see in Nairobi. Yes, 14 degrees Celsius. Also, no light showers for today, so usipaniki. Light, warmer temperatures expected during the day. This is one of those days that you can even dress lightly. Some fantastic weather for today. That is according to the weather updates for today. Right now, though, let's take a look at Today in History.
On this day, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, former wife of South African President Jacob Zuma, won a vote to become the first woman to head the African Union Commission, defeating incumbent Jinping.
All right, let's now take a look at the dailies this morning. All right, let's start off with the Standard, and I think it has the most apt headline this morning, "In the eye of the storm," with an image of the president right in the middle of the front page today. And they say presidential headache. This could be the toughest week for President William Ruto as he faces an acid test. The mystery of women bodies dumped in Kware, The discussion on a broad-based cabinet takes center stage. The youth have called for another round of protests in spite of talks to address their issues, kicking off today. Many players, however, have given the multi-sectoral conversations a wide berth. So yes, and an image of President William Ruto looking a bit
worried
if
and
I
concerned.
may say that, yes. The other story given prominence on the front page of the Standard, of course, is what is happening in Kware. Slum yet to come to terms with Kware murders. DCI boss says the nature of the injuries on the bodies recovered so far point to an organized gang. But villagers say it is police. So that's the debate, yes.
Yeah.
The administration or the security agencies are yet to point out directly and say this is a problem, but watu kule washasema hii tunajua vile kulienda hapa. Yes. Terror, 4 killed, grenades recovered. This is another story on the front page. Let's now go to the top strip for more highlights on the front page of the Standard. Kalonzo tough stand against dialogue splits opinion. Yeah, the divisions within Azimio with regard to whether or not they should be engaging in dialogue with President William Ruto's UDA and Kenya Kwanza. And it has caused quite a split within the opposition ranks. Yes, the Donald Trump shooting incident makes it to the front page there, on the front page of the Standard, but more of a highlight. Trump hurt in shooting incident. It was a scratch on his
the ear.
right ear. Yeah. In business, flower farms use contracts to cut costs. And in sports, breakthrough stars of Euro competition. That's the front page. If we flip the paper, of course, what happened yesterday, the 5 breakthrough stars of Euro 2024. Okay, I think by the time the finals was being played, the paper had already gone to bed.
Yeah.
So, but they talk about the stars of the tournament. Several under-the-radar players have shown their class on the European stage. They also talk about a foundation launched in honor of the late Kiptum. Yes, the late Kelvin Kiptum, as a foundation in honor of the men's marathon record holder, has been launched 5 months after his death in a tragic accident. That's the Standard this morning.
Right. Because you'd mentioned about Euros. Great to remind someone in case they're waking up and they're trying to see who won, by the way. Yeah, so it's Spain.
Spain are the champions of Europe.
Walicharaza England 2-1.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Watu wengi walikuwa wametegea ati England, it's coming home, it went to the neighbor.
On the front page of Daily Nation, the big headline there is police theories on city quarry deaths. They say 2 more bodies were fished out of the quarry dump site yesterday, that is on Sunday, even as top detective Mohammed Amin said his officers are looking at various hypotheses, including the involvement of a serial killer, rogue medical practitioner, or cult activity, since the victims, all women, were killed in a similar fashion and bodies dumped at the same spot. And I think this really quells the whole rumors of quote-unquote Githurai massacre and all that, which so many people on social media are really peddling and going with. Other headlines on this paper: Palestinian Trump assassination scares as White House path gets clearer. That Donald Trump was shot in the ear in an attempted assassination during campaign rally on Saturday, an attack that will likely reshape this year's U.S. presidential race, while raising sharp questions about security provided to the Republican candidate. The suspect was shot dead by Secret Service agents. The headlines on the left, they have the photo there of President William Ruto. The same matters governance. I'm fully in charge. President William Ruto says the challenges he is facing will only make his administration stronger and more efficient. I love the fact that this headline draws parallel to what is on the front page of the Standard. On one hand, they say I'm fully in charge, but on the other, it really shows that not really, though. You're about to have a very tough week.
Oh, yes.
So
how the president navigates this week will determine a lot.
Oh, yes. Other headlines: Paleju Ethiopian plane crash windfall. Families lawyers to be paid more. Into politics, cracks widen in Azimio over Ruto's call for talks. Say the opposition coalition convinced today to take a common stand on dialogue initiative that has the backing of ODM and its leader Odinga. This even after Raila Odinga said, youth, I have listened to you. I'm not going to get into all this dialogue. Najua staki munisalimie, so I've backed out. That is the front page. On the back page, Kipyegon, you haven't seen nothing yet, folks. I'll run the 5,000-meter race first in Paris, then the 1,500-meter, which is my favorite. I'm ready for the Olympics. I expect bigger things, she says. And she's just 30 years old, making us proud. The countdown to the 2024 Paris Olympics continues, 11 days to go. So that is what is on the Daily Nation.
All right, tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Anasema afadhali Ruto, habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa hili gazeti. Oburu asema rais aking'olewa ama Gachagua atachukua madaraka au jeshi. Aeleza hiyo ni hatari zaidi. Japo wote ni viongozi wabaya, Gachagua ni mbaya zaidi. Alishatangaza kuwa nchi inafaa kuongozwa kwa kutegemea mchango wa kura za kila jamii katika uchaguzi mkuu uliopita. Hawa watu wakimlaumu Rais Ruto, Gachagua ndiye amemsababisha uteuzi uende jamii mbili. Suluhu, huyu ni kakake Raila Odinga, anasema anawahimiza vijana wajisajili kwa wingi kupiga kura katika uchaguzi ujao wa mwaka 2027 ili wamng'oe Ruto na serikali yake. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Alizungumza jana akihutubia wanahabari. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Gor pabaya katika soka ya Sekafa. Kwengineko mpasuko Azimio waendelea. ODM yaunga mkono mazungumzo ya Ruto, vyama vingine tanzu vikiyapinga. Na masuala ya Shakahola, Mackenzie alivyoniibia mifugo. Shahidi aeleza koti jinsi wazee wa kanisa walivyotoa sungura na kuku wake.
Wazee wa kanisa?
Wazee wa kanisa. Makanisa. Pale juu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, CDF vita kati ya wabunge na maseneta. Wawafokea maseneta kwa njama ya kumaliza hazina muhimu. Na pia ile habari kutoka kule Marekani, Trump ashukuru Mungu kwa kumkingia kifo. Ajeruhiwa kwenye sikio baada ya kijana kufiatua risasi katika mkutano wake na kuua mtu mmoja. Hizo ndizo habari zilizopewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo.
Let's take a look at the front page of People Daily. They say Raila, no dialogue in what could escalate crisis against the Ruto regime. Opposition chief says he will not join discussions with individuals with blood on their hands and demands justice for lost lives. That is on page 4. They have a photo there of the Azimio leader who was addressing residents of Kware area in Embakasi, Nairobi yesterday. On the bottom, they also make a mention of the same story, pale juu, the whole Kware killings linked to cult, and still in matters security, how Kome's goose was cooked, the former police chief's judgment and temperament questioned in face of brutality against protesters and extrajudicial killings. His silence, his very, very loud silence during this whole demonstrations really raised eyebrows. On education matters, on the bottom strip, grade 9 learners start trial tests. They say national examiner to pick 25 pupils from each of the participating schools. And just to give you a brief on what they're saying, on that page 3, 5,875 pupils from 235 schools to undergo Kenya Junior Secondary Education Assessment. You can take a look at that story on page 3 and really understand what it means for you as a parent, as a guardian. That is on the front page of People Daily.
And yes, I think probably there was an error there. We do not have grade 9 yet. I think the first cohort of the CBC classes is in grade 8, and they sit for that KGSEA exam today. Let's move on now to the Business Daily. Matters Business. Toyota dilutes state with 1 billion shilling, a thicker vehicles assembler buyout. This Toyota dealer, CFAO Motors Kenya, is set to buy additional shares worth about 1 billion shillings to take control of thicker-based assembler, Kenya Vehicle Manufacturers, KVM, signaling its plan to take charge of its production at the facility that has suffered from years of underinvestment. This is a top story on the Business Daily this morning. There's also mention of what happened in America, Trump survived assassination attempt, and that's the photo they've gone with on the front page of the Business Daily with the presidential candidate, former President Donald Trump, with that fist bump after that assassination attempt. Another story from Kenya. Kenya oil dream delayed further as Talo field plan rejected. Kenya's oil wealth dream has been delayed after the government rejected a commercialization proposal by British exploration firm Talo Oil, citing gaps in its field development plan. On the ticker, quick highlights here. Kenya spends 153 billion in a year to repay China loans.
Wow.
Elsewhere, Bamburi protects buyout deal with 683 million shilling fee. So many figures. Yes, this is matters business. Elsewhere, why court declined to suspend housing levy. And finally, Kenya, hear this, eyes new Eurobond in 2026, meaning Kenya will return to the European market very soon. That's a Business Daily today.
Let's take a look at the Star, and the story is focused on this paper. They go with the headline that no other paper has gone with. They say Odinga, the Azimio leader Raila Odinga, and former President Uhuru Kenyatta hit in 156 billion cash shillings Ruto new budget cuts. So Raila's benefits slashed by 7.2 million cash shillings, while Kenyatta set to lose 92 million Kenyan shillings. And this really has to go with matters cost cutting for the President, Deputy President, Prime Cabinet Secretary, the First Lady, spouse of the Deputy President, as well as Kalonzo Musyoka there pictured. Other headlines on the left scroll, matters education, why conferment of degrees is on ice at Maseno, saying degrees and diplomas conferred by Maseno University could be brought into question due to a lack of substantive chancellor. Other headlines, pray for me to get right people for the job. That is according to President William Ruto. I saw one of Pale X alikuwa anaambiwa prayers have reached us where we are right now. We need a different kind of strategy at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Into other matters, ODM summons troops to discuss Ruto dialogue call. And finally, the big conversation that is going to even be for this week, what is happening in Kware. In Bakasi, Kware bodies probe eyes cult, serial killer or medic theories. And that, in a nutshell, is the Star. I believe takes us now to the cartoons.
Yes, and just before we go to the cartoons, a quick look at the top trends on X. Top trend, of course, Spain, after winning the Euro 2024 tournament. The second trending hashtag is Euro 2024. Yes, the tournament came to an end yesterday evening. Trump, also a top trend in Kenya, with that assassination attempt. And the next trend is Ruto must go, the hashtag. Is still trending and has been among the top trends for weeks now, despite what the president did last week by firing his cabinet.
Lakini si aliwapunguzia mafuta jana na 1 bob.
Well, that's a whole other debate because now what people realized is that fuel levy that went up from 18 to 25 shillings actually kicked in yesterday. So ideally, the fuel price should have gone down by at least 7 shillings. But that was all lost because of that fuel levy.
Wow.
Yes. So you give with one hand, take with the other.
Take with the other.
Let's take a look at the cartoons today, and they all make mention of Gen Z. On page 11 of the Daily Nation, something like a chasm. On one hand, there's public office. On the other, people who are willing or interested in getting to the public office. But in between, there's a very sharp knife, which is Gen Z scrutiny, meaning that going forward, even those interested, because I saw a lot of excitement last week, especially among ODM ranks, with the possibility that, yes, they could get into cabinet. Yes, but hey, kumbuka, Gen Z wako hapa.
Right now, the Gen Z don't care which party
kujua chama ni gani. On page 12 of the Standard, this one makes reference to the KJSEA examination for junior school assessment for grade 8. And now, for creative arts and sports, the question is, state 3 strategies used by Gen Z during their demonstration. And they're giving 3 marks. That's a question on creativity and sports. And then the commentator hapo chini anasema, Anguka nayo.
In 2040, that is what students will be learning.
That's a cartoon on the Standard.
Let's take a look at the cartoon on the Star. It has to do with what the new Inspector General, his name is Douglas Kanja. Yes, what his directive on matters transfers, and so the police officers in Kware and that area being transferred out of that place, the sucks, and just a picture of what is really happening in that area. And they're asking, same script, different cast. They also have a blood kind of image, caricature of the exiting former police chief Kware. Akiwa pale tu anacheki tu maneno yote. Same script, different cast.
The only solution they always have is transferring officers. Yeah, no tangible solution going forward.
Finally, on the People Daily, Stano's take on page 10 has to do with matters the Gen Z and
Gen Z was featured in 3 cartoons this morning.
And how Gen Z managed to get into Parliament on, I think it was the 25th of June. And the government is saying, holding a placard there, Bill Gen Z protests. House repair to cost over 150 million cash shillings. Government is saying you got away with the finance bill, but you won't escape this one.
Wow.
Gen Z wametoa mifuko yote wamesema
sina kakitu. 150 million. All right, we'll be looking at some of these headlines with my panelists after the break. On State of the Nation, as promised, Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Minister of Agriculture, will be in studio alongside Dr. Mombi Ngaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and Philip Kisia, former town clerk, Nairobi, will be in studio. So do stand by for that. Meanwhile, Willie Bazu KE at Willie Bazu KE is watching live from Kitale, Birunda. Good morning, Willie. Karibu sana, and thank you for watching Morning Cafe. Time now for a break.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave, wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here
on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy, who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins.
In Eye of the Storm, there's a big headline on the front page of the Standard this morning. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Time for us to take a look at the state of the nation, and I think this is the one headline that aptly paints the picture of what we're looking at this week. In Eye of the Storm, and an image of President William Ruto looking rather concerned or forlorn on the front page of the Standard. And they paint a picture of what faces a president this week. They call it the presidential headache. Toughest week. 1, cabinet replacement. 2, dialogue deadlock. 3, Kware killings. And 4, Gen Z protests. Yesterday, the president said he has opened a new chapter and is asking Kenyans to pray for him so that he can come up with a cabinet that will help him achieve the promises he made to Kenyans. This morning, we're privileged to have in studio Honorable Dr. Mombingaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Alongside Dr. Ngaru is Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Agriculture Cabinet Minister. Good morning, Karibuni.
Yeah, thank you. It's our pleasure.
Yes, Philip Kisia will be joining us shortly as well. So a lot has happened since the last time you were in studio. Key among them was the dissolution of cabinet. And I'd want to get your take on that because it would appear the president has made another major concession. The previous week, before last week, he had rejected the finance bill of 2024. Now last week, you see, he dissolved a cabinet which has been lauded by very many people. Yet the hashtag Ruto must go still remains on X especially. What's your take? Don't you think the president has given in a bit too much without getting any dividend back?
Wow. Fred, good morning.
Good morning.
Before I comment, it's become, something that we must say, that we condole with the families of children that are not known, cut into pieces, packed in sacks, and the bodies are being discovered. We don't know how many there are. I have seen parents on TV asking for their children, and maybe some of their children are those in sacks. It's traumatizing, and do we have a country? So your statement to the president has given a bit too much. Correct it.
Mm-hmm. Let me actually correct the whole conversation. Let's start off with the discussion you began with, and because I think that's the most natural place to go first, because today will be day 4 of the retrieval of bodies from that area. And there are concerns that the kind of uproar that is coming from that direction could further fuel the protests. Whether or not they are linked directly with the protests, there's a lot of discontent about how the government is handling this issue. Yes, I'd like even to invite Philip Kisia onto the set as we continue with this. Dr. Ngaru, away from the issue of cabinet, we'll come back to that. Are you concerned that the uproar that these deaths have caused could be even more problematic for the government going forward?
Not could be. It's a big, the anger in the country is rising by the day. So whether the president has dissolved the cabinet, he's listening to the voices of the Gen Zs, whether he's dropped fuel prices by a shilling, which probably is another lie, because the fuel levy has gone up by 25 shillings from 18. Whether the president is keeping his word. He was in a church Harambee yesterday in Nyandarua, in Nyahururu. That anger of deaths and following it up with some half-truth and untruth and many others. The country is seething with rage. I'm saying it to myself and as I do a prayer for the country, let God help our children, help us all. But this week, from where I sit, and I said they talk to us, even individually, I don't expect an easy week for the country.
Okay.
The anger is boiling day in, day out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bonakirwa, it is palpable, the kind of rage that you're looking at. And this is just one of the things the president needs to handle this week.
Yeah.
He has not come out to make a conclusive pronouncement on what's happening at Kware. That could be quite costly for him politically.
Well, I'm afraid, allow me also to condole with the families of those bodies have been retrieved for the last couple of days or so. And also really condemn in the strongest terms whoever is the perpetrator, whether it's a gang of criminals or is tied to any of the security organs. It is very unfortunate that at this time we still got some of those unfortunate situations happening in our midst. I think we need also to perhaps look at the president the way he's bedeviled with so many challenges, but it would have been good for him to be responsive in terms of taking action by making himself associated with those who are condoling with the families. Unfortunately, he's not shown that, and we just hope that in the near future he'll be able to do it. But fundamentally, we need to look at our society afresh. I think the problems we are trying to solve are less political. They're actually more moral, social, and economic. Moral in the sense that issues of opulence, issues of moral decadence, issues of arrogance, all those are moral issues. And of course, economic in the sense that people are going through tough times. Those of us who are fortunately or unfortunately accessing some little money from the banks through domestic borrowing or from our local banks, we realize the interest rates are very punitive. They have gone from what it was 15% a few months ago. Now it's about 24%, if you are lucky to be with the right bank. And social in the sense that we've created a society that has a lot of disparities in terms of income. Well, there is a small clique that are sort of at the top of the pyramid in terms of income. The majority of our people who are getting out of school with no jobs, with no gainful employment, and with really nothing to talk about. And finally, the role of many people who have been hitherto working in various companies, with the closure of companies and relocation of some of their very serious operations, is creating a huge population of Kenyans who are frustrated out of lack of employment. And it is not just a simple arithmetic that the government says you are employing 10,000 people in this particular subsector, while 10,000 people have been declared redundant because those who have been working perhaps have been supporting 5 people in a family. And the 10,000 you are saying you are employing may be somebody who is going to be a mason, electrician, doing some jobs that really will support him or her, and perhaps one member of his immediate or her immediate family. So these are a collection of issues that, yes, the president needs prayers, but he should also take time to reflect on what kind of government he wants to present to the people of Kenya.
Okay. Bwana Kisia, good morning, karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yes. On this issue of what's happening, especially with the bodies being retrieved at the Kware in Mukuru, there is concern about how the president has handled a lot of issues in the past few weeks. He's been accused of lacking in empathy. But then again, if you look at the kind of week he faces, he could be forgiven because there's a lot that he's carrying on his shoulders this week. He doesn't even have a cabinet. There was talk of a broad-based dialogue towards ensuring some sort of solution, which we are not even sure is going to happen this week. The Gen Z protests that are coming back on Tuesday. Do you think probably it is getting overwhelming now for the president?
Well, Fred, good morning, colleagues, and let me also join my colleagues in condoling with the members of the families who've recently lost their loved ones through means that one would not want to believe. You know, when you have human beings being murdered, being slaughtered, being butchered, and dumped in a dump site, you know, you can only imagine that such a thing cannot happen to a human being, but an animal. Even in a civilized country, you will not treat an animal in that manner. So to the extent that you can have human beings being murdered, it is something that nobody can forget, nobody can forgive. In fact, this only reminds me of 2007 when we lost a lot of our people after the post-election, during the post-election violence. And well, I mean, you know, this treacherous and murderous act, well, you can say that the president is overwhelmed for the time being. But that is why he's the president, Fred. That is why he asked for the job. Nobody forced President William Ruto to apply for the job. He applied for the job knowing very well that the job is weighty, it comes with a lot of challenges, and he confirmed to the people of Kenya that he was up to the job. Fred, last week, my sister Mumbi, you know, was trying to be a bit kind, and he said very good things about the president, and I almost agreed with her. He said the president is a strong man. Strong. But I said that I should be forgiven for defining him not as a strong man, but as evil. Because when you lose lives of your people, Mukuru Kwanjenga, I think up to last night we were counting 9. Up to last night, he has said nothing. He has not even sent condolences. President William Ruto was in church yesterday praying. He even asked for prayers. Why didn't he take that opportunity to pray for the families who have lost their loved ones through such a manner? These are not animals. These are human beings. Fred, I could not even have the courage of looking at the videos that were going around. So, when you are the captain, you must take responsibility. If you've been given a job as an aircraft captain and you're captaining people through turbulence, I mean, you must give them hope. You must ask them to fasten their belts, that you are going to go through turbulence. Prepare them. I mean, these are shock, especially coming after what happened about 3-4 weeks ago, where we lost people. Kenyans, not animals. So look at that event 4 weeks ago. Look at this, what has just happened. Look at what happened last year. And people are still in office. Fred, we have no country.
Wow. The front page of the Daily Nation has this as a main headline: police theories on city quarry deaths. Of course, there's a lot of stories on what may have happened. We're still yet to be certain how these people met their death, however gruesome the situation is. But it is the timing of this discovery that changes the game for the president. The fact that he already has a lot on his plate, then this discovery is made, and the question is, can he really in any way be able to distance himself from this issue? He is the president. 8, 9, 10 people do not just get murdered like that. It is under your watch, when you have already promised them that security under you will be different.
The buck stops at his door. He cannot run away from it. But I'm a student of observation. I don't know whether my colleagues have noticed it, the absence of disaster management committee in such an operation, be it from private sector, the county government of Nairobi, the national government, even to take equipment to such a site, because from the videos that we are able to see, the packages, you can identify them. And it's the Kenyans in their bare hands and ropes. And, you know, I don't know whether you have picked that Nairobi city government has equipments for disaster management. They are not there. The national government has a national disaster committee. They are not there. Even to call for equipment, hardware from the army, and they are not there. That for me is a big, big gap that actually you should bring it out. But I still say, for a man or woman to close their eyes, to close their ears, hear no evil, see no evil, it's evil. It's the strength that I'm saying. There is some strange strength that we cannot, I don't have another word. It's an evil strength. And therefore, for me, from where I sit, maybe it's time for the president to have the courage to say, I'm done. I mean, how can you in this situation even go to a church after you had talked to the Gen Zs and said, no more Harambes, no doing politics? I mean, sometimes I'm lacking words. I am trying. I don't have the spirit of my friend Philip Kisia. But to get it out. No, yours is you can get it, and then my next colleague, Waziri, in his diplomatic spirit is calming his nerves. I know mine is a bit. I'm trying to calm the emotions. I have people who I know at a very personal level that have lost children, but not those ones that have been picked out of that dump site. I mentioned the other day I was giving a condolence to a family that is known to me. And for the head of state to see no evil and hear no evil that is happening in his government, it turns me numb. Yeah, it does. And I cannot believe that we have a country called Kenya.
Yet it's the entire political class that should be under scrutiny. This recovery of bodies and the retrieval enters day 4 today. It's been happening the entire weekend. Yesterday, I think the first leader to be seen there was Raila Odinga when he showed up later in the evening. Not even the governor has appeared there, or the local member of National Assembly. There are concerns that the political class are scared or are anxious, are not able to interact any longer with the masses. That in itself says a lot, Bwana Kirwa.
Yes, I do agree with you, Fred, that many of our colleagues who are in active politics are scared of appearing in public places. I saw a clip of a young girl who is I think either CEC in Machakos County, being told to come to the front and greet the audience in a church function. And she was totally scared. And before she held the microphone, 3 young men came and took away the microphone from her. So that explains that those of us who are in elective politics are in really trouble. But nonetheless, when there is a serious issue of the magnitude that we are discussing, leaders need to show empathy, they need to show presence, and I do want to really appreciate what the Prime Minister Raila Odinga did last evening. It was a mammoth crowd, and I think one of the resolutions was arrived at, that Sakayo ashuke chini, and he himself was not going to get involved in dialogue with people with soiled hands or hands with blood. But as a way of improving some kind of trust in the current regime, they need to do a number of things. One is to be very responsive in terms of prosecution of the policemen who are seen to be shooting people from certain strategic places, so that we hear something is being done. We are not saying those policemen are condemned, but they need to go through a court of law due process, so that if they were not involved, we are told they were not involved. And if they are involved, they should face the law And if nothing is being done, people will be suspicious of the government. The other thing is to do quick investigation and not bring a story that is just going to be a cover-up. Bring investigation, whether the police were involved or other individuals, let the results come up as fast as possible. And last on this particular issue is that this regime has demonstrated clearly that they don't care what happens to the public. And that has been the genesis of the wrath that the GNC directed at the regime. As they try to resolve the problem, it is not formation of a cabinet that cuts across political divide, that cuts across community, cuts across professions, or in terms of age, a younger cabinet. I don't think today there is anybody who can say we'll have a younger cabinet than that of the founding father of the nation, where you used to have ministers at the age of 29, at the age of 32, at the age of 28, and most of his ministers, except one or two, were below 40. Today, it will be foolhardy to expect President Ruto is going to have that kind of youthful cabinet. But youthful is not enough. It should be a cabinet that responds to the wishes of the people. Because people, they want services. In fact, if you listen carefully, Fred, nobody, when they were saying Ruto must go, nobody was saying so and so should come in. Mm-hmm. They were talking about issues afflicting them from unemployment, selective dispersal of resources, also buying of jobs. You go to many places, if you don't have $500,000, your child cannot go to police or to the military. These are small issues affecting people in their own localities. That's why that thing became non-tribal, non-gender, and also non-class, because it was every child, even our children, whoever was not with the child could easily see the child in the TV. I'm sure Kisia must have been with his, otherwise they would have gone.
Okay.
And GNC, they have given the criteria. Mm-hmm. Mumbi and I don't qualify to be ministers. The only person who qualifies is him, but he's very bitter with the president.
All right. And we'll be looking at the prospects the president is facing in as far as reconstituting a cabinet going forward, and whether or not the dialogue will happen as planned. That after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
What point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. I'm still in studio with Honorable Dr. Mombingaru, Kipruto Rapkiro, and Philip Kisia. Now, Bona Kisia, there's something you wanted to respond to before we move to the President's cabinet.
Yeah, let me say this, that probably because I've been very honest with my President, who happened to be my friend at some point, if he had listened to me and others, we would not be in this situation. So there's one thing that I was taught by my late mother, that you must be honest and truthful to yourself, to your family, and to your country. That's the only asset that was left by my late mother. So if my honesty will rub anybody the wrong side, please forgive me. So I thought, and I want to confirm to my senior brother that I like the President and I want him to succeed. And that is why I keep on reminding him of what he needs to do. But let me say this, Fred. During the break, there was, first of all, let me join my brother Kirwa in acknowledging the fact that my party leader, Honorable Emeritus Raila Odinga, made an effort and went to the site. We've not seen government presence other than the agencies who have failed in performing their jobs. Because see, DCI, NIS are so heavily resourced. Their job is to scan the environment continuously, be able to see what is going to happen in the future, predicting what will happen, and developing a strategy to deal with such circumstances. But they have failed flat on their feet, and we wonder whether they should continue holding public office and consuming public funds. So, hongera to the party leader.
But there are those who argue that even his presence there was not that helpful, apart from the political pronouncements.
You see, the mere fact is sometimes, when you've lost a loved one friend, like I've lost and you've lost, and sure, we've all lost. Sometimes just the mere presence to comfort the family is sufficient. In fact, at that point in time, you don't need anything else. You just need to be comforted. So that is what the party leader did. He went to comfort. And of course, he's a political animal. He made a political statement. That is him. He's a political animal. But let me say this, even in adding, that I would completely dissuade my party leader. I want to besiege him to stop playing Jesus. Okay? He should not attempt to sanitize or salvage President William Ruto. He did it for Arap Moi. He did it for Emeritus Kibaki. He did it for Kamwana Uhuru Omboigai. Please, Honorable Raila, this one, let it go. This one is beyond salvage. You cannot salvage it. And during the break, I think there was something interesting that we were talking about. And my sister Mumbi was saying that let's give him a chance because he can change the way he does stuff. There's this saying which says that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. If you've taught a dog certain things, I can tell you, because I have some dogs, or rather my kids keep dogs. And I'm not saying anybody's a dog, but I'm taking that as, when you have taught a dog certain things, I am telling you, you need a miracle to change. So at this age, in fact, people say that beyond 12, you cannot change somebody. They have already formed, they already have an opinion, and if anything, maybe the society or community that you live around can persuade you to do things in a certain way. But you cannot change, especially.
But you do admit that yes, as you say, community or society you live around, the environment at the time could force you to take a certain direction.
At an early age, and I say 12, maybe 12.
Okay.
But when you're at 30, 40.
You don't think the current environment...
when you are 30, 40.
We've seen the president change.
Let me give an example. Let me give you an example.
We've seen the president over the past 2 weeks
give
a lot of
you
concessions.
a recent example. Let me give you a recent example. When the president went to the United States of America, you saw him, the way he was behaving, holding hands of the First Lady. And we also said, all of us said, you know, we must copy the president. Because this is a good thing to do. You must show love to the ones you love, correct? Public display of love. And we were all shocked. But did it last long? When he came back, what happened? He went back to his old habits. Have you seen the president holding the First Lady since he came back? Have you seen? It has not happened. So, point being, you can pretend for a few minutes that now you have changed and so on and so forth, but you go back to your cocoon, you go back to your old way of doing stuff. So, changing beyond a certain, you can only pretend you have changed, but I can tell you,
the environment has changed.
I can tell you, it is difficult. It's like a mogumo tree. And our sister will tell you, you know, you can't bend a mogumo tree. Once it has, you know, it has grown beyond a certain, in the tree.
Okay.
He's like a mogumo tree. You can't change him.
Dr. Ngaru, the president over the past few weeks has had to surmount enough challenges. He has given concessions that many people believed or thought he couldn't. Yes? Key among them was, of course, rejecting the finance bill in totality, now dissolving his cabinet, even talking of a possibility of formation of a government of national unity. Those are major concessions from this president. Even if it's just the environment that is prevailing at this time that's forcing him in that direction, we cannot really say he hasn't adjusted. Can we?
I said it, and I said I'm not speaking on behalf of my party or my party leader. I am speaking as Mombi. My observation is that the president is being forced by the environment he is in. And things will never be the same again for him and even for us. And when I say us, I mean all Kenyans in leadership, from the MCA to the top. And it is not going to be the same, even in other non-political institutions, including churches and the rest of them. And this is why I am saying the president will be forced to change on the way he does things. And I'm saying it for, you know, a simple reason. I am older than he is. And I know quite something. When he was a member of the Pentagon, I was still a member of ODM. So I may not be a friend, but at the public interaction, I have interacted from a distance, not agreeing on the many things, but I have to accommodate my views from that perspective. So if he's able to finish, to change the cabinet and a lot of government institutions, because he has to do a major shake-up. And the reason why I am saying there must be a major shake-up, because we are all now listening to this voice, no dialogue. But I believe, from where I see it, even silence is communication. There are people who are saying, I don't want to see, I don't want to talk about it. It is still communication. and we are communicating at our different levels. So my question as Mombi, at what point will all those discussions from the Gen Zs, from the older generation, from whatever, from all the corners, at what point do we come to bring all those, our communications, to make a national dialogue for the country to move forward? That is what I'm calling dialogue, not the dialogue of political parties and those others. For me, my question is, at what point will the dialogues that are happening on social media, in churches, we as a country must come to that point where we sit and ask ourselves.
That's what the president has suggested, and I want to ask your opinion on this, the formation of a multi-sectoral forum, to have a sort of a discussion. It will start today for the next 6 days. Do you agree that that is the way to go?
Let me say this. I am not using those terms, multi-sectoral and whatever else, because I am not looking at a sitting where I am invited because I belong to this. Let Kenyans who want to come and they have got something to offer come and talk about it. Let now the technocrats, from wherever they are, pick the range and the solutions and whatever else that Kenyans will talk about, to come and say, after we have done that, where do we go from here? Because if we don't do it as a country, if we don't do it, we are looking at our country going to the dogs, and we shall not be able to salvage the country. So, and I said, I am looking at it as a stakeholder, and I am also a student, and I've seen it in other countries, and I'm asking myself, has this country recovered? Would I want it to go this way? So any one of them as leaders who will bring this national conversation, whether you are going to do it at Kasarani, whether you are going to do it at Nyayo National Stadium or Kenyatta Conference Center, it is important that we bring those dialogues to a point where we ask each other, where do we go from here?
There's a problem in that, Bonakirwa. Watching the president standing alongside Raila Odinga last week at KICC during that event that was primarily to sign the IEBC law, we got a strange feeling that it would appear the political class is now coalescing and coming together because they've realized that it is their position that is under threat. And so their interest right now in coalescing together across the aisle is simply because the status quo is being threatened. You've seen the former Prime Minister's declaration. He supported the dialogue that was to start today. He made that pronouncement. He's been forced to backtrack on the same. Yesterday there was a chance of no dialogue. He had to go with that as well. The political class, there's an indictment on them. How then can they come back and lead any sort of dialogue going forward for them?
Fred, you've captured very well. You know, since independence, we've done 13 general elections. And for every general election, except 2013, 2018, after elections, there is onslaught on democracy. You remember 1964 when KADU dissolved itself and crossed the floor to KANU, and therefore the country became de facto one-party state until later on it was made de jure through the amendment that was promoted by the late Charles Njonjo. Fast forward from 1992, the second multi-party democracy that we wanted to engender to our country. Immediately after elections, there was an onslaught on members of parliament. They tried in Central, in Muranga. It failed because the guy who defected lost the seat. They went to Lowland. They tried, I think it was in Diwa or Nyatike. Tom Opondo crossed over to Kano. He lost the election. And now they focused on Western Kenya to do an onslaught on the former Foda Asili members of parliament, with the Apilia Awire being the most expensive candidate to run in a by-election. And of course, later on, they were able to take a few other members from Foda Asili. In 1997, they realized they needed a stronger person. They brought in Raila Odinga under the cooperation. Later on, it became a coalition where Raila became the Secretary General of KANU. And of course, he came back with good fruits. He destroyed KANU. And that's how we formed the NAC. During NAC period, there was also breakaway. What am I trying to demonstrate? And even up to now, even what the president did at the beginning of time was to do emasculation of political parties and of course hijacking of parliament. What I'm saying is that we don't seem to believe that we need to be in a political system where there are those who have won and those who are in the opposition, and each one of us is playing his or her role. We seem to believe that we should be in government, all of us. And therefore, when you are in the opposition, you are looking for a job across the floor. And therefore, what informs you is your own interest. So in Kenya, there is no democracy. I can say the democracy that we witness in Kenya is democracy among political elite, not among the people. Because we must accept that, yes, if I don't win the election, I should stay away for 5 years. I try again. If I don't win, I stay away. And somebody else may win against the opponent that beat me in the previous election. So I would want to say that's why it's actually the genesis of GNC is that bad manners of politicians, where we don't believe that we can stay in the opposition for 5 years. Tell me which period except the one I've told you, 2013, 2018. And therefore, I would also recommend to Prime Minister Raila Odinga that please let Ruto form his own cabinet. Don't get involved, either by proxy or in person, so that we can advise Ruto when he has his cabinet and we tell him these are the issues to look at. He even needs advice. He has been advised by these young people that let us have jobs. If there is one job, let the best person get the job regardless of the tribe. Today in this government, it's mainly two communities. Even when they are recruiting clerks in KRA, it is from the two communities. How do you take other Kenyans? You mean other Kenyans just because they did not win the government? They must therefore not be in anywhere. And tomorrow, if the two communities lose to another coalition of tribes, because I don't believe there are genuine coalition of parties, those tribes now will come and evict the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus in government. The answer is no. So fairness must be the hallmark of our political dispensation. Otherwise, what we are doing is we are destroying this country, we are destroying multipartyism, and we are not building strong institutions. We are allowing individuals to reign in.
Okay. But you look at the conduct of politicians, and you're one of them, Bwana Kisia. Your party has acted, or members of your party have acted very excited since the pronouncement that there was going to be dialogue and a possibility of a formation of government of national unity. Members of ODM, mostly, look very excited at the prospect that they could get to occupy some cabinet positions. That in itself says a lot. And that's the same question we're asking about the political class. They're more excited and interested in power and being inside government, that they're not concerned about anyone else's interests.
Well, Fred, again, I don't hold a party position.
But you have admitted you're a member of that party.
I am a member. I'm just an ordinary member. Therefore, I have no locus to comment on party matters. But I can comment as a Kenyan and, of course, as a party member. As my brother Kirwa said, if we just upheld the Constitution, just upholding the Constitution, and making sure that you govern in accordance with the Constitution, we shall all be fine. We cannot all fit in government. Even if today Ruto exited and you got somebody else, and he brought me in, the only difference is that I'll not bring in my cronies. I'll bring in Kenyans who can do the job. That's the only difference. So long as you have somebody occupying that office who wants to benefit and benefit his family and benefit friends and impoverish other Kenyans, because what we fight for resources. There's nothing else, Fred. The first thing that we fight for as human beings are resources. So if the person in charge, the person who has been given the responsibility of distributing those resources, he distributes the resources in an equitable manner, in a fair manner, I can tell you, Fred, if you are not sleeping hungry, if your tummy is not rumbling, you have no business being in government. In fact, it's a headache being in government. It's a difficult job being in government because the nature of human being is that they never are satisfied. Most of the times, they are dissatisfied. And if you want to know that you are doing a bad job, just be sacked for a few minutes. I can tell you, I don't want to be in the space of the 21 cabinet secretaries who have been fired. They are not sitting pretty. They are in a very bad situation. I can tell you all of them, because what have they done? They have now come to the realization. Somebody was telling me that Alice Wahome or somewhere, I don't know, I haven't seen the clip, but I was being told that Alice Wahome was saying she didn't know that this government was so unpopular. She had not realized, because you see, sometimes when you're in power, you forget, you disconnect with the people, you disconnect with the reality, because you have everything in abundance. Everything is catered for. So I, Fred, would want to imagine, you look at the United States of America, look at UK, transitioning from one administration to the other, people are not bothered. Rishi Sunak leaves, somebody else comes in, and life goes on. Because they know that the person who has come in will run and govern in accordance with the law. But here is the opposite. Immediately somebody gets into power. First of all, they want to exercise that power out of the Constitution. Then the other thing, they want to raid public coffers to enrich themselves. Even when they are already rich, you wonder, where are they taking all this that they're accumulating? Where will they go with this money? All these things that they're accumulating. A guy who was living somewhere we know, all of a sudden can afford a belt of 1 million. Fred, you can even do with a belt of 10,000 shillings. And, it will still hold your trouser if you're losing weight like I'm losing. So what is the problem? Why go and buy a belt? And then, in fact, one of them said something very interesting. He said, the watch this one that I'm wearing, that I bought with my own money, is costing 900,000. Then I asked myself, what about the other watches? Is he saying that the others were bought by funds that are not his? Mm-hmm. I think we have completely lost it. But let me say this, just to comment on what my brother Kira said.
The question actually was on ODM's excited...
Yeah, I was saying, there should not be any excitement, in my view. There shouldn't be excitement. Because why are you getting excited for what?
The prospect of actually getting...
Why are you getting excited? That is why I was trying to put it into context, Fred, saying that that excitement, what you're calling excitement, can be cancelled with one signature. Mm-hmm. Uphold the Constitution, make sure that you are fair, and distributing the resources in line with the Constitution.
But that's in
that is it.
Situation. But we are in a crisis currently. The president is in a very tough position. He's been backed into a corner, obviously. He has had to dissolve his cabinet. He's looking for like-minded individuals. He's even extended an olive branch to the opposition, if I may call them that, by inviting them to a possible discussion around a table and the prospect of forming a government of national unity. Surely, is there any other way out of the current fix we are in?
Fred, we have talked from this forum about advising, in quotes, the government trying to salvage the atmosphere of a confused government by tapping to professionals, to other political parties who can help him. In our own admission, we said the cabinet has failed him, and we tried to also exonerate the cabinet by saying that what we hear politically is that it's a one-man show. So we've had these discussions, and I think he's been listening, and now he's almost seeing that this could help him. About the excitement in ODM, if you cared to listen, even to a statement that was released by the Central Committee, it's not excitement. It's not excitement, because the Gen Zs are also members of the political party. And you check the tweets, they are there. The politicians who look excited and like possible, you can check it. You are good people in these things, and there are names that have been floated, and the Gen Zs in ODM are putting a big X. If you have not seen it, then you're also biased. So what I'm trying to say is that the conversation outside here is also in the political parties, irrespective of whatever political party you are in. And I don't think my party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, is not listening. So if he has to go that way, he knows what the Gen Zs in ODM are saying, and they are not saying anything different from what the rest of the Gen Zs in the country are saying. So I cannot call it excitement. Yes, the political heavyweights, let me call them just that. Some outside and others that are outside. And I can say this one without any fear of contradiction. Any fear of contradiction. The excitement is not in ODM. I can say it, that members of other political parties.
Within the Azimio formation?
No, not only Azimio formation. Mm-hmm. I will not name political parties here.
But there's definitely some excitement.
No, it is not an excitement. I'm telling you, I will not call it an excitement, because these are individuals who probably were in cabinet or in high positions that are now looking for an opportunity. And this does not make it a political party thing. I am saying I can say it without any fear of contradiction, that there are people who are looking for my party leader day and night, trying to look for space, just in case, consider me.
Okay.
And they are not ODM members. And they are not only Azimio members. Some of them are sitting members of parliament. So they are already in positions. So let's remove the ODM affair here.
Okay.
But I want to say this. In times of crisis, like we are in, leadership is important. And leadership is not only people who are listening to the ground, but people who are able to let the rest of the country come to an agreement on what they are trying to speak to. And I think this is where I give my party leader credit.
Okay.
That he has risen above the political din, and not once and not twice and not thrice, and said, we have to get out of where we are now.
Okay. But
and for me, that's leadership.
But many people are saying, Bonakirwa, that anything anyone will do in aid of President William Ruto will simply be to salvage his presidency, and that it shouldn't be ODM's role to do that. Yet we can see one Oburu Odinga on the front pages today saying Ruto, afadhali. Yes? Meaning there's an indication that they are willing to help him salvage his administration. That is a concern that we have. You've been a member of cabinet, and Bonakisia may say that it's not that lucrative, probably because it can be taken away with the stroke of a pen. But many people would be excited at the prospect of sitting in that chair.
Yes, I agree with you, and I also want to share the sentiments of my colleagues. Yes, when you are in power, you are insulated from reality. Even when I was minister, I lost a number of friends because at times they come to the office and I'm not able to see them, not because I didn't want to see them. I did not know that they were there. So somebody waits for the whole day, then later on, after you've lost elections, he says, I came to your office 3 times and I didn't see you. So these are some of the, hazards of the business that we do in politics. Also, it is also good for us to make the government of the day to be fair to all Kenyans. Why do I say that? Immediately the current regime took over. A number of cases affecting some of their members were dropped. And for me, I read a lot of mischief and I said this is now the beginning of bad manners. And of course, the DPP then had the audacity of telling us that he was forced to frame up some cases without threshold evidence that could sustain prosecution. That was a admission that he failed, and therefore, in any other position will be failing because he'll be listening, being somebody in an office that is protected by the Constitution, listening to the administration of the day. Now, as far as ODM is concerned, it is the largest political movement outside the ruling coalition. And some of us who have been associated with ODM, not necessarily as members, we get worried. Mzee Raila can advise the president without necessarily donating any member of his party to go to the government. In fact, he will be weakening that coalition, will be weakening that administration, and actually the administration may be ejected by the people of Kenya out of office in ways that are not within the law. I get worried because if 100,000 Kenyans went to State House and evicted them, will the president have the capacity to kill all of them? The answer is no. So my worry, I'm just being an elder. Let President Ruto be given good names of Kenyans. Let him form his government. He has had and he gets information from NIS. He tells us how he's addressing the issues that have arisen. And from time to time, he can consult with Raila and even the other members of the opposition in a way that it is their forum. Because you see, the problem, Fred, is that Kenyans have always looked at us politicians as job seekers, such that tomorrow, somebody would imagine that if Ruto gave me a telephone call, I would be shivering and or excited out of my internal limit and looking for a job as a minister. I would rather advise him for the next 3 years, and if I'm with him in the next general election, then I can be part of his cabinet. But not for me to have been criticizing him for the last 2 years, then he gives me a job. What will be the difference? And you see also we are being a bit naive. This challenge of the cabinet, and even for him to have sacked 21 of his ministers, it was in admission that he was also part of it, part of blame. Now, remember, the emperor in 1974, the Emperor Haile Selassie, he used to be told by the military junta that overthrew him eventually, give us this minister, he has done 1, 2, 3. He gave, by the time they were going for the 5th minister, or he thought they were coming for the 5th or 6th minister, the junta told him, we have come for you. If all these ministers have been making a mistake, where were you? You have failed in your responsibility as the head of state and head of government. So we've come for you. That's how we was overthrown. So 21 ministers to be sacked by President Ruto means he himself is admitting that he never created a team that could advise him and move forward. I know, Fred, that those ministers, about 15 of them, are people who have very good credentials, people of high integrity. There may be 1 or 2, just the way we are also in normal society, who may not be very strong people. But many of them are people of integrity, but they never got a chance to work because William Ruto was micromanaging each and every ministry.
How would a government of national unity look like? Because we're just talking about the possibility of a government of national unity. What would it portend? One, for the president, and secondly, for the nation. If at all you're saying that probably ODM should not be so excited on being part of that cabinet.
Just before I dive into your question, let me comment on the issue of dialogue. I think dialoguing is important, it's part of living. You can't live in a vacuum. So dialoguing is okay. The problem or challenge I have with dialoguing is a situation where we have a meeting of a meeting. No progress. And that is what has rubbed the Gen Z the wrong side. They are saying, and most Kenyans are saying, that forget about dialoguing now. Set it aside. We want action. So let us move from talking. Let us see some action being taken. We've talked about corruption for so many years, so many decades. Nothing is happening. So let's move from talking. And that's why I think this issue of having dialogues and meeting is not sitting in very well with most of the Kenyans. So if it's a meeting to review what should have been done, or at least to report what has been done, but most importantly, to take action on what has never been done, is, I think that will sit pretty with many people, and such a process will be supported. You have asked about a government of national unity. In any event, any government should foster unity. Any government. I think the challenge you're having with President William Ruto's government, it doesn't reflect the face of Kenya. You know, the Constitution is so clear. I think the drafters of the Constitution had foreseen this, that for you to sustain anything, that there are certain things that must be taken into account. Number one, diversity. You know, that your cabinet should reflect the face of Kenya. Don't leave any community out. The issue of gender, you see.
And that's a concern, because the last time we had a government of national unity, the number of cabinet members went up.
No, you see, Fred, we are not, we're something we're calling representation. People must just feel that you are part of this government. You have 22 slots, all right, Fred? Not every community can be in cabinet. But if a region, let's use the old map of Kenya, or the regions of Kenya. If out of the 22, you have 22, you gave Western 2 or 3, whatever, you gave Central 2 or 3, you gave every region, you shared, okay? And even other areas that fail to get a cabinet or a flag, the other positions in government you can share, so that people feel part of government. We have cabinet secretaries. You can maybe have 22 or 30. You have the office of the Attorney General. You have a Speaker of the Senate, Speaker of the National Parliament. Those are positions that can be shared in a manner that you accommodate everybody, so that the entire nation moves with you. This cabinet of President William Ruto is heavily tilted towards one side. Almost 40% of cabinet come from his background, from his backyard. Then the other shareholder takes, I think, 30%. So 70% of his cabinet are from two regions. And there are so many other regions. So you leave the other regions to share the 30%. That is where the problem is coming. So, you know, he is talking about government of national unity. The Constitution is so clear on how any reasonable person can form government. You are guided by the Constitution. So don't even let, I mean, if he's saying that he's going to form a government that will reflect the ideals that are spelled out in the Constitution, then we need to support him. But I don't.
The implication of that formation of that kind of administration that I'm more concerned about. The president himself said he'll talk to other political formations, other stakeholders, meaning it will be really a broad pool from where to pick from. That means that definitely the numbers, it will be top heavy.
Fred, it's not about the numbers. We have had in this country a government of national unity. It was formed by President Mwai Kibaki.
And cabinet ministers were, I think, over 40, there were 44.
He formed, after the referendum, he formed a government of national unity. Yeah. He sacked the LDP wing of government because they were orange and these others were banana. And in his wisdom, he brought in people who did help him calm the nerves of the country at that time. I'll give an example of the late Jenga Karume. I was still working for Raila Odinga. And if you go to the court records, I am one of those who signed to take President Kibaki to court for incorporating the opposition in government. Of course, we knew we wouldn't win the case, and we were fined heavily because it's the party that took the fine and paid for it. A government of national unity, apart from sharing those slots, it will give President Ruto an opportunity to look for people who will help him calm the nerves of the country. And now, if he is able, listen to the Gen Zs and even ask for names from them. What's the big deal? They're stakeholders. And therefore, it's not a new thing. This country has been in such a situation before that. And it's the English term and the English vocabularies that are making people wild, because they're getting used and they have been misused, and you know, like they don't make sense at all. Even these multisectoral forums, people don't want to hear them because they've been abused and misused by the same as political class. I'm not removing myself from it. But at times like this one, and this one is even worse than the previous ones that we have had, because like the 2008 problem, the country was able to rise out of that crisis with the help of even the international community. Don't forget that. And they also brought in people for a conversation. So a government of national unity is not just about sharing the cabinet positions and whatever else will be shared. But I back my friend Kisia. that even after they did the cabinet, and then I'm talking about my region. Mm-hmm. I may not have been a part of them because I've always been ODM. But for a deputy president to come out and tell the country about shareholding, he rubbed Kenyans the wrong way. He comes out and tells the country that he has no apologies to make. They delivered 47% of President Ruto's votes, and therefore, having 9 cabinet slots, he will always think about that region first. So this is what my colleagues and I are saying in very many words, that he missed it from the beginning. He listened to the political voices that were around him. It was a reward, and he forgot about the country. Okay. And he has continued. The people working with him, including himself, I'm not going to remove him from the equation. How do you have 100 parastatals in the country being headed by one community? If it's not that one community, it is somebody from my region. It is wrong. Okay. So we have to talk about this government of national unity, bringing all those sentiments to the table.
And the president appears sold to that idea that the government of national unity is what is going to be the panacea for probably a good chunk of his problems. Do you believe that is the best solution, and at what cost? Mwai Kibaki's government of national unity had 40 plus cabinet ministers and over 50 deputy ministers. Yeah. That in itself is too much for Kenya right now.
Yeah, at the beginning, Fred, I said we are trying to address social, economic, and moral challenges using politics. Yes, it may calm the nerves of the people the way my good sister has said. After calming the nerves, are we going to have effective dialogue? Because for me, dialogue should be, there is an English expression that dialogue of the deaf. Of course, I may not be right because of using the word deaf, but that is an English expression. But we don't seem to realize what is the elephant in the room. We seem to be looking at it as if it's a political problem, and therefore by bringing many people and calling it, whether it is going to be broad-based government, grand coalition, or government of national unity, whatever the term, the formation of the cabinet should be entirely the cabinet of President William Ruto. He's the guy who was given the mandate by the people of Kenya, and ultimately will be held accountable. After doing that, then we can tell him not to visit an onslaught on institutional offices, such as the Office of Controller General and the Office of Controller of Budget, because you've seen the way they have been doing, almost lambasting them and making them look bad, and yet they're identifying the root cause of all these problems. The second issue, if we were to advise him, is also to respect what we call the public service. Public service is an animal in our midst of well-trained Kenyans. Kenyans who have gone to school, Kenyans who have experience, even those who did not go to school so well, out of habit and repetition of the same act, they know how even to set a boardroom. And they may not have gone to school very well. There are also people who will be here beyond the current regime and another regime to come. And the third thing is to improve on service delivery so that Kenyans feel we are getting services from our government. And perhaps not sell jobs. Nowadays, if it's for KWS, an individual is given 400 positions to go and distribute at the price of 400,000. So somebody comes with billions, millions of shillings. That's why people are buying watches, they are buying expensive shoes. Because, and this one young people know at home, that so-and-so sold to the son of Kisia a position in KWS, a position in the military. These are things that we must do away with. As bad as people thought Moi was, we never sold those jobs. You could be given as an MP 3 positions or 5 positions. You go to your constituency and you give to a needy student or a needy child, and they go to the military. It could have been a selective way of making others get those positions, but I'm part of it. If I'm guilty to the extent that I never sold a single job. So these are things that this regime should know. And the final thing, because I like advising him, because Bogisho is not here today, there is something, Fred, that worries me. The government cannot pretend to create jobs. What the government should be doing is to make credit affordable, so that when I go planting my 100 acres or 200 acres of maize, I have people that I will employ indirectly. Somebody else will start a factory. Somebody else will start a bakery. And if credit is affordable, I will not close up. And if I'm not closing up, I will need more and more people in terms of the business I'm dealing with. But this model that the president has brought, thinking that you can make the government rich and the government by extension will have more opportunities to employ people, is the wrong model. Okay. It is never anywhere in economics. Okay. The little I've done and the more that I hear from other people.
Okay. And as we come to the end of the show, I'll ask each of you, starting with you, Bwana Kisia, if you were to offer advice, I know you've offered advice to your party leader. We are in a crisis as a country, and we have to acknowledge, whether in government or you support the other side, we have to wade through and navigate through the crisis currently. How do you think we can do that? If at all we say no to dialogue, we say no to the formation of a government of national unity, how else can we navigate this?
You know, Fred, I said that I'm not against dialogue, but the agenda of the dialogue is what worries me. If the dialoguing is about talking of a meeting, of another meeting, then it's a waste of time. If the dialoguing is about action, yeah, or failure to take action, so taking action about the things that people have been talking about, I think that is something that I would want to support. Because in any event, we all Kenyans. Kenyans belong to us. There is nowhere we can run to. Because even if you leave Kenya and go elsewhere, you are a foreigner. You can never feel the same. So to that extent, of course, is something that we don't support. And I think your question was that how can we navigate ourselves out of this situation? It is, for me, it is about the leadership, the current leadership, reviewing themselves. They actually need to audit themselves. They need to look at the mirror and ask themselves hard questions even before they come to the table. Because the challenges that we are facing as a nation have been created by somebody. Who has created those challenges? Why did they create the challenges? They must start with themselves and prescribing a solution to the problems that they have themselves generated. So in summary, that's what I would say. But let me say this in closing, Fred. One of the things that, in my view, which should be put on the table, because the people have lost confidence in the executive, 100%. The people have lost confidence in parliament, and that's why they want to occupy parliament. Okay? So two arms of government have no legitimacy to provide leadership. There seem to be a little hope in Senate. There seem to be some hope in the judiciary. So what can we do? And I hope that is one of the things that we're going to put on the table, other than just forming a government of national unity, which in any case, the prescription is in the Constitution. The other thing that must be put on the table is how this government should exit. you asked me to, my brother here advised the president, and the Pogicho is not here. So let me also offer my advice. There was an opinion given by Emeritus Chief Justice Maraga, and he cited Article 261, subsection 7. And he said that this parliament, as constituted, is wrong. So in my view, if I was to advise him, if he wants to leave the office, to exit in a neat manner, let him use that avenue to dissolve parliament. Now that he has dissolved his cabinet, he can also dissolve parliament. After doing that, let him also now, we agree, on his exit in a neat manner. So once that is done, then we can also consider forming a government, a transitional government, as we prepare for a snap general election. In closing, there was a man, a preacher, an evangelist called Jonathan Edward, who lived, I think, between the year 1703 to 1753, thereabouts. And he said, you know, and I think he could have been talking about the current situation, that there are people who are full of knowledge. And William is full of knowledge. No doubt about it. He's our president. But he lacks mercy and love.
Okay. You have like 2 minutes.
Fred, I want to say it without any fear of contradiction, that we are in a position in this country where the leaders who shake this country must rise above the din, rise above the crisis, and offer at the risk of losing their popularity to give direction and lift the country from where we are in. And I can start with my party leader. I can call out Martha Karua, my senior sister, and there are others. Not the popular leadership that sways the crowd and says what the crowd wants to hear, but people who have the courage to lose the popularity so that such brains, and not only the political ones, we pick them from all over and sit around the president, cushion him, and tell him with no uncertain terms, this one you cannot manage.
Okay.
This one you can manage. Because I pray for this day where we will lift the country, not as damaged, but with a way to push us forward.
Okay.
And I really pray that all of us must drop down this ego, that I am a leader and I am listening to the ground. Please take the opportunity to lose that popularity for the sake of our country.
Bwana Kirwa, you only have 30 seconds for your parting shot.
Thank you. I'll just say I agree with Dr. Garu 100%. Okay. But the cabinet should be that of President Ruto. He himself in his campaign was saying, I'm not looking for positions. I'm looking for how to serve the people of Kenya. So we don't want to partake in stolen goods.
Wow.
Let him run his government. I will join the group of advisors without pay. I will join Mother Karua, pro bono.
Thank you so much, Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Cabinet Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Mombingaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and Philip Kesia, former Town Clerk, Nairobi, our panelists this and every Monday on State of the Nation. The big headlines today, in the eye of the storm, promises to be a very tough week for the president, with so many things happening and that he has to navigate through. And yes, very timely advice from my panelists to the president and other leaders. Thank you.